Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by Big Fish Charter Services in Elginak. Experience a world-class muskie fishery on Lake St. Clair for predator fishing or a once-in-a-lifetime trip on the St. Clair River to tangle with a prehistoric lake sturgeon at Big Fish Charter Services. It's all about big fish.
Hey everyone, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. I'm Jenny Olson and we've got a new show for you this week. We're going to start out by taking you on a bass fishing trip on the Kalamazoo River, and it's a part of the river where that oil spill happened a few years ago. So you'll get to see some great bass action, and you'll get to see how the river is doing now after a few years of working on the cleanup there. And Jimmy and the guys have some other fun stuff for us after that.
Well, that's right, Jenny. We do have a couple more things on this week's show. We're going to head to the northeast part of the Lower Peninsula and do a little exploring at Fletcher's Pond. It's a body of water that maybe you've heard of, but you've never been to. You won't want to miss that story. We're also going to have a venison recipe, and I can just about guarantee you it's a way to cook venison that you've really probably never tried before. Lots of good stuff on this week's show. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan Out of Doors. Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, offering a variety of meat products. Country Smokehouse is located 3 miles south of I-69 on M53, just south of Imlay City. Country Smokehouse is a meat processor, a butcher, and a destination for sportsmen. By Meyer, a destination for hunting, fishing, and camping. From bug spray and tents to GPS and gas, Meyer has nearly everything you need to take on nature and get you there. Meyer. By Greenstone Farm Credit Services, making recreational land ownership possible across Michigan and northeast Wisconsin. Begin your land financing journey at one of Greenstone's 37 locations or visit greenstonefcs.com.
We all have one. That perfect spot. A special place we go to smooth out the ripples of the day. Our perfect spot is calling. Our perfect spot is pure Michigan. Your trip begins at michigan.org.
Hi, I'm Jordan Brown, and we kick off this week's show in southern Michigan on the Kalamazoo River fishing for smallmouth bass, and the stretch of the river most affected by the oil spill back in 2010.
Well, we're on the Kalamazoo River, outside of Marshall, downstream of Marshall, and targeting smallmouth bass with a fly rod. And we're approaching the restoration area up ahead here ways. How far do you think it is? I don't know, it's a ways. Mile and a half, something like that. So we're looking for smallmouth. So we're going to fish today. We're going to float in the drift boat, and we're going to throw some streamers. Brett and I will trade off and try some topwater stuff, some weighted flies, some we tie with dumbbells to get it down. Sometimes you'll just let it drift in the current down close to the bottom. There's other times that you can strip it the way you would for brown trout when you're streamer fishing, and they'll attack it. I suspect today would be a day that we might fish a little bit slower, but the topwater could be really good too. They're in the middle of some spawn. There's some spawning going on. So it's really kind of a guessing game right now, what the best technique is going to be. See what they want and try to get on a pattern, and then we'll go from there.
Today's mission was twofold. The main objective was to see how this fishery was recovering from the massive oil spill in 2010. And in the meantime, highlight a great opportunity we have here in southern Michigan to fly fish for smallmouth bass. As we began to float downstream, I asked Mark about the initial reaction to the oil spill.
I think when the oil spill happened, as with any catastrophe, some people are alarmists, and they look at the worst, and it was bad. It was very bad. I mean, it was awful. And to be honest, it's hard to imagine now, somebody like yourself being here and looking at the river, you probably can't wrap your brain around how bad it was. And I have to give props to them on that, on how well they cleaned the river up. But I think a lot of people still don't recognize, because the river, the restoration's really about the fish. So a lot of people recognize how beautiful the river looks, and it does, but they don't understand, because they don't necessarily fish. Really, the fish represent really how well the river is doing. And we can all see that the fish are here. And I'm not so sure that it isn't as good as it was at one time. A good one? Yeah. But I think a lot of people see it, that the river looks pretty, but they don't experience for themselves how well the river is doing, that it is coming back. And like Brett said earlier, that a lot of people, I think, thought that it would be a long, long time before it was even at the stage it is now. And it has farther to go, the recovery does, but I think a lot of people thought that it was going to be a very, very long-term thing, and as it turns out, that's not necessarily so.
See if we can ski him in there. Woo, there we go.
That's a dandy.
It's a good one. I'd say close 16, maybe somewhere in there.
Good job.
There have been several things done since the oil spill to help repair the river system, but perhaps none more important than the removal of a nearby dam.
Part of the remediation process, Enbridge has removed a dam, the Sresco Dam, and basically it took a lake-like environment, 4.5, 5 miles of the Kalamazoo River that was impounded, and essentially turned it back into a natural free-flowing stream. It's narrowed the river up and created faster current, more pools, riffles, and runs, which creates diversity, which fish and aquatic life need. It also helps to filter out sediment and any type of pollutants that are coming downstream. So the implications of dam removal are very positive, and we're seeing some progression. Those riffles are extremely important for macroinvertebrates and small bugs, and that makes its way all the way up the food chain. So the long term, the river is going to be much healthier without the dam, and it's going to allow that stream to process its sediment naturally. Real light looking fish, huh? Nice, there you go. Six years later, looking at the river right now, you probably couldn't tell that there was an oil spill of that magnitude. The fishery in general, I would say, is doing well. There's lots of fish that survived the oil spill. There's been some setbacks here and there for the fishery in the short term, but there's probably a bright outlook for the fishery in the future.
These guys fish all over Michigan, and the Kalamazoo River is still one of their favorite spots, and it's easy to see why, with plenty of smallmouth to keep them busy.
So I think the biggest thing that I take from this whole experience fly fishing on the river for smallmouth is, it's always interesting to me how many people miss the boat on how much fun it is, how hard a smallmouth pulls. And I mean, Brett and I are both trout fishermen. We do that. We started out doing that, but we always have to laugh because some people think that there's, I don't know, it's a lesser fishery to fish for smallmouth, and we always say if they would just give it a chance with a fly rod, not very specific on flies, I mean color sometimes, but part of the fun of the whole gig is to be able to tie your own flies, get creative, and fish and catch fish on flies that you tied yourself, and the action is just, it's really hard to beat. I mean, the fish fight like crazy. They weren't super aggressive today, but there's certainly times when they'll chase and hit a couple different times, and once you hook one, it's a blast. I mean, it's an absolute blast to catch a smallmouth on a fly rod, and a lot of people, I think, miss the boat on that. They don't give it the respect that it should have.
As we neared the end of our stretch, one thing became clear. The fishery in this stretch of the Kalamazoo River is recovering well, and although there is more work to be done, the future looks bright.
I think the truth of the matter is that in spite of how bad things were, they did do a good job in the cleanup. An awful thing happened, and they were pretty good about, they didn't hesitate to spend money where they needed to spend money to do the right thing. And it's been a collaboration with, the DNR, the different conservation groups. There are a lot of people were interested and concerned about restoring the river and what was going to happen. But, nature has a way of fixing things too when you give it a chance. And the river processes certain things. And part of that is going on now too. There's lots of dead ash here, for instance, that's falling in all the rivers all around us from the ash disease. And so there's lots of woody debris, a lot of structure in the river. Not enough in the restoration area yet, but I guess that's forthcoming. And I want to give credit where credit is due, and that they've done a great job of restoring the river to where it's at now, in spite of a terrible thing that they were also a part of.
The Kalamazoo River may never be the same as it was before the oil spill, but it's clear that the right steps are being taken to restore the river system. And I can say without a doubt, from a fishing standpoint, that the recovery is going quite well. Special thanks to Mark and Brett for a very informative day on the Kalamazoo River.
Well, in this next story, we're going to take you to a place that we hadn't been to in years here at Michigan Out of Doors Television, and that is Fletcher's Pond. It's a pretty unique body of water, some great fishing, and it's a place that you may just want to check out yet this summer.
If you're looking for a new corner of the state to explore, don't overlook the place you may have heard about but have never been to before, Fletcher's Pond. Tucked away in the northeast part of the Lower, this area is an outdoorsman's paradise.
Fletcher's Landing was originally Charlie's Landing, opened back in the 40s. My father Lowell purchased this place back in the late 80s, and for the last 6 years, me and my brother Stephen have been running it as Fletcher's Landing. Primarily our customers are hunter and fishermen, mainly bass fishermen and northern pike fishermen. However, we get a lot of panfish as well. We have 14 cabins and houses right here on the lakefront, right here waterfront. Anywhere from 3 to 6 people per cabin. Mostly we're busy in the summer with pan fishing and bass fishing and pike fishing. Also we do a lot of some deer hunting and duck hunting in the fall. And then ice fishing in February, in January and February we get a lot of ice fishermen. We're up in northeastern Michigan. We're about 20 miles west of Alpena in Hillman on Fletcher's Pond, which I believe is about 9,000 acres, which is about Michigan's 11th largest inland lake.
When David reached out to me to see if I would be interested in doing a little fishing on Fletcher's Pond, I jumped at the chance. It's been a long time since we had a camera on this lake, and always looking for an excuse to head north, here we were on one of the nicest days they had had in the early spring. David's buddies Tyler Ferris and Brad Schrader were going to be showing me how to fish this lake, which is full of stumps and debris, making it a little different than most northern lakes. If you're a first-timer here, well, just go slow.
It's unique. It's a floodwater. Back in the 30s, they dammed up one of the branches of the Thunder Bay River, which then flooded this entire valley. Afterward, the loggers came in and cut out all the trees right about water level. So if you're looking across, it's only about 6 to 8 feet deep throughout most of the lake. However, there's stumps and logs and all kinds of cover right along the bottom and along the water line of the lake.
What do we got there?
It's a tube bait.
Right.
Tube, Texas rig style.
What size weight you got in there?
That's a 3/16 bullet weight.
All right.
Just casting out and dragging it back on the bottom over the stumps, over the logs. If we can get some takers here.
Well, because there are so many stumps, you really can't open up your motor and just run. You need to go slow, watch for stumps. But when you do get lines in the water, well, it's worth the travel time.
Ooh. That's a nice fish.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect. That's what we're here for, right?
With all the debris, there are plenty of places for the fish to hide, and there is more than one technique to find these fish.
Right now, being in the shallows, we're just pitching, throwing tubes out, just slowly reeling it back over the logs, letting it drop over the logs, and just hoping to get one of these males that are up here in the shallows right now, making the beds.
Okay.
So,
and this is, I mean, obviously there's a ton of structure. Is it too much, or is this great?
we find it great. We love it. Could be too much for some people. I know some people come up here and get frustrated because it's too much and get hung up a lot. And like the driver working the boat right now, having to work around all these logs is pretty tough when the wind picks up. So
that's why you had him drive?
Yes, that's why I let him drive. A little later we might move out and throw some jigs at, in some deeper water there.
Okay. And you guys found a few fish earlier today?
We did. Same area that we're fishing right now. We came out, found some fish, and obviously that's why we came back out here. And hopefully as it gets later in the day, the bite will get a little better.
Okay. Have you fished this lake quite a bit then?
Yeah, I've been fishing it maybe 10 years now, so I'm getting to know it better every year.
I don't know why northern fish seem better looking than southern fish, but for whatever reason on this perfect afternoon, that seemed to be the case.
You got the hard job up here steering.
Yeah, the wind's dying down pretty good, so that's nice, but
it's like a minefield out there.
Whew. Yeah, we just get banged around a little bit, but it's all right. We just try to get up so we can get underneath the logs, and we're starting to try to make the beds a little bit. So
okay, it's pretty shallow in here, eh?
Yeah, it's got to be. Well, right now it's 1.5 feet.
Wow.
And so you can see all the stumps out here. Everywhere you go, it's a different
different
challenge, right? So
good.
But we get them though. I don't know if it's big enough.
Ooh, it's a good looking fish.
It's wrapped around the every tree.
That's a fish. Look at that big old mouth.
This is a very unique lake, and from talking with folks that fish it on a regular basis, they all rave about how much they love it. Not sure if it's the amount of fish or just being up north a long way from the craziness of life.
Nice job, young man.
Yes, sir. All about the same size right now.
We were finding primarily bass today, but the pike fishing here is also very good and really good pretty much all year round.
People like it because with the way the lake is, there's really no jet skiing or water skiing, so it's pretty much 100% fishermen out here. We're open year round. Fishing really, it's weather dependent. This year it's a little bit colder, but usually late April, people are up here fishing, and you have people out fishing all the way into late October. And then obviously about early January, the ice fishing picks up into March. So a lot of people fishing tip-ups for pike, a lot of panfish as well. Get some good 10, 11, 12-inch perch. Come out.
Back of the boat's leading the pack here.
Yeah, it's the captain up front. Yeah, I don't have to do nothing except fish back here, you know?
Nice fish.
Thanks. A little better.
Nice job, young man.
Thank you, sir.
We fished most of the afternoon and headed in as the sun began to set. We had a great time on really the first day of warm weather this part of the state had seen up to that point. So what do you do when you're up north after spending the day fishing? Well, you fire up the grill, sit on the porch, and tell some lies of past hunting and fishing trips. It really doesn't get much better. I'm not sure where your summer plans will take you this year, but if you're looking for a new corner to explore, consider Fletcher's Pond. It's a place aimed at folks who love the outdoors, and I bet there are a few fish waiting for you here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
All right, well, we are here at Antlers Fireside Grill, Canadian Lakes. We're here with Jim Wood again, and we're going to try something I don't know if I've ever even heard of. This is a venison dish, but explain kind of what we're doing here, Jim.
This is a venison loin eggs benedict with a Michigan cherry hollandaise sauce.
Wow. And so if you know anything about eggs benedict, a pretty decadent, pretty rich,
very French
dish. And
yes.
how are we going to incorporate the venison into this, and how do we get started with this?
Well, the venison is obviously going to take the place of the Canadian bacon. And
okay.
So in order to kind of give it that Canadian bacon feel, we brined it in Michigan maple syrup, salt, water, and some fresh herbs for 3 hours, and we smoked it for about 10 minutes. And you can either finish it on the grill or you can finish it in the pan. We're going to do it in the pan today.
Okay.
You don't have to do that process if you don't want to. If you just
Okay.
want to simply cook your venison loin,
that would be fine. Okay.
I'm not at your house, so I'm not going to judge you.
Well, good. So how do we start?
Well, as you can see, Jim is a lot of fun to cook with. Now, this is a very delicate recipe when it comes to the sauce. It's going to take a fair amount of time, and you are going to need a partner. You're going to use a bowl of boiling water as your heat source. And you're going to take your eggs, and you're going to be whisking them constantly as you have someone gently pour in a little bit of butter at a time. You want to try to get this sauce to about the consistency of pudding, and at that point, you're ready to move on.
All right, so we're almost done with this sauce. It needs to get a little more acid, so we're going to give it some fresh lemon juice. And we're going to stir in our Michigan cherries.
So at this point, your sauce is pretty much done. Now, Jim did like to taste it as he went and add a little bit of salt here and there. Now, what you're going to want to do now is go ahead and get your venison loin grilling. You can either do this on the grill or you can do it in a pan like we were doing here. Again, this venison loin was brined, so we didn't need to add any seasoning. You don't have to brine it. If you don't, you might want to add a little bit of salt and pepper to give it a little bit more flavor. And at that point, you're going to also want to get your eggs poaching. Take the boiling water that you were using as the heat source for your sauce. Go ahead and add in a couple of eggs. This only takes a couple minutes to poach these eggs. And then you're going to take your venison loin, thinly slice it, and again, it's taking the place of the Canadian bacon. And at this point, you're ready to start plating your dish. And I was very excited to see how this was all going to come together.
You're just going to drizzle that right over the top.
Wow.
And this is venison loin eggs benedict with a Michigan cherry hollandaise.
Well, I have to say this dish was very good, something I would never even consider when it comes to venison loin. And if you have any left, you may want to give this a try. For the full recipe, you can go ahead and check it out on our website.
Thanks for joining us this week for Michigan Out of Doors. Make sure you check us out online when you get a chance. You can do it a couple of different ways on our website at michiganoutofdoorstv.com or on our Facebook page at Michigan Out of Doors TV. We have all sorts of summertime fun headed your way, and we'll be on Facebook letting you know where we are and where we're headed next.
Well, that's right, Jenny. Facebook is a great way to kind of keep tabs on what we're doing here at Michigan Out of Doors Television, where we're going and where we've been. We've been out on the road quite a bit of late, and so there will be a lot of brand new stories coming your way over the next few weeks. Make sure you stay tuned. And hey, if we don't see you in the woods or on the water, hopefully we'll see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by the Michigan chapters of Safari Club International. For over 40 years, SCI has been protecting hunters' rights and promoting wildlife conservation here in Michigan and around the world. SCI chapter locations can be found on the web at firstformichigan.org. By Vanguard, a global manufacturer based in Michigan featuring rifle scopes, binoculars, and spotting scopes with lifetime warranties. Vanguard supplies sporting optics and accessories for the outdoor enthusiast online at vanguardworld.com. By Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises of Munising, exploring Lake Superior's Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore with its sandstone cliffs, caves, waterfalls, and lighthouses. Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises on the web at picturedrocks.com. Closed captioning is provided by Marvo Mineral, makers of Lucky Buck, deer management products including minerals to supplement deer diets year-round to improve health and antler growth.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man. I am a Michigan man. Ask where I'm from and I'll show you my hands. Lord above, I love this land. I am a Michigan man. From the Keweenaw down to St. Joe, Kalamazoo, East to Monroe, to St. Marie and back again. I am a Michigan man. I am a Michigan man. Ask where I'm from and I'll show you my hands. Lord above, I love this land. I am a Michigan man. Ah, Michigame, win, win, a stone. I say, I'm, say, when